The Indian Ocean, a vast expanse commanding the world's most critical sea lanes. Here, a new maritime power is rising, quietly but decisively. Two behemoths, INS Vikramaditya and INS Vikrant, form the pride of the Indian Navy. Together, they represent not just naval might, but a statement that India is preparing for sustained power projection across the Indo-Pacific. Yet what many don't realize is this: these two carriers are not the final chapter of India's carrier story. They're just the beginning. Behind the decks of steel, turbine, and jet fuel lies a grand maritime strategy, one that seeks to secure India's interests from the Strait of Hormuz to the South China Sea. This is the story of India's twin aircraft carrier strategy, and how it sets the stage for a tri-carrier navy that will redefine the balance of power in the Indian Ocean.
Before we move forward, please like, share, and subscribe Strategic Vanguard and be up to date with the latest news and happenings from the world of defense, strategic, and international affairs. Tune into our video channels in YouTube and Rumble. And if you want to hear the audio version, tune into our Strategic Vanguard channels in Spotify and Amazon Music.
India's aircraft carrier ambitions began long before most Asian navies even dreamt of one. In 1961, India commissioned its first carrier, INS Vikrant R-11, purchased from the UK. It wasn't just a ship, it was a vision. When war broke out in 1971, INS Vikrant played a decisive role in blockading East Pakistan, sealing off the Bay of Bengal and paving the way for India's victory. That operation, Operation Trident, made one thing clear: control of the seas means control of outcomes. In the decades that followed, India became the only Asian nation other than Japan, during World War II, to operate aircraft carriers continuously. In 1987, INS Virat joined the fleet, giving India sustained air power at sea for over 30 years. But time, technology, and threats evolved. The Indian Ocean, once a relatively peaceful theater, became crowded with submarines, carrier groups, and foreign bases. By the early 2000s, as China began expanding its naval reach, India realized it needed to move from sea control to sea dominance. A single carrier was no longer enough. India needed two fully operational carrier battle groups, capable of operating simultaneously, one on the western seaboard and one on the eastern. That realization gave birth to India's twin carrier strategy, with INS Vikramaditya and INS Vikrant as its foundation. Commissioned in 2013, INS Vikramaditya was the first major step toward India's modern carrier resurgence. Originally the Soviet carrier Admiral Gorshkov, it underwent a massive refit at Sevmast shipyard in Russia, emerging as a modern short takeoff but arrested recovery (STOBAR) carrier. At 44,500 tons and over 280 meters long, Vikramaditya became the flagship of the Western Fleet. Its air wing, built around the MiG-29K, gave India formidable reach, covering the Arabian Sea, Persian Gulf, and even parts of the western Indian Ocean. But Vikramaditya's role was more than operational. It was strategic continuity, ensuring India didn't lose its carrier capability while its indigenous carrier program was underway. Operating from Karwar Naval Base, Project Seabird, Vikramaditya serves as the guardian of India's western approaches, protecting shipping lanes and projecting deterrence against potential threats emerging from the Arabian Peninsula and beyond. The ship's integration with airborne early warning helicopters, Kamov-28 ASW platforms, and Sea King variants gives it a layered defensive envelope. Yet Vikramaditya also revealed a key lesson: dependence on foreign technology comes with limitations. The complex refit, delays, and dependence on Russian spares showed that true maritime power requires indigenous capability. That lesson would guide India's next leap, the INS Vikrant. When INS Vikrant IAC-1 was commissioned in September 2022, it marked a watershed moment. India had entered the elite club of nations capable of designing, building, and operating aircraft carriers indigenously. Built at Cochin Shipyard, this 262-meter-long carrier displaces over 43,000 tons. But more importantly, it's a symbol of India's maritime self-reliance. INS Vikrant's design combines modular construction, advanced propulsion, and digital ship management systems, making it one of the most sophisticated platforms ever built in India. Its air complement includes MiG-29K fighters and a range of helicopters, with deck configuration optimized for future indigenous fighters like the TDBF, twin-engine deck-based fighter, currently under development by DRDO and HAL. But what makes Vikrant strategically vital is where it operates, the Eastern Naval Command, headquartered at Visakhapatnam. The eastern seaboard faces the Bay of Bengal, Andaman Sea, and the Malacca Strait, the choke point that carries nearly 60% of the world's trade and most of China's energy imports. By basing Vikrant in the east and Vikramaditya in the west, India ensures simultaneous sea control on both fronts, an operational concept known as two-carrier readiness. In essence, even if one carrier undergoes refit or maintenance, the other remains battle-ready. That redundancy is what gives India strategic continuity, the ability to project power 24/7 across the Indian Ocean. And while Vikrant's commissioning was celebrated as a technological triumph, it's strategically more than that. It's the opening act of India's long-term maritime doctrine. Critics often argue that aircraft carriers are expensive relics, vulnerable in the age of missiles and drones. But for India, carriers aren't about prestige, they're about presence. India's geography is unique, a vast peninsula surrounded by ocean on three sides. Its economic lifelines, crude oil, trade, technology, flow through critical sea lanes of communication, SLOCs. To protect them, India must ensure constant surveillance and deterrence from both coasts. Submarines provide stealth, destroyers provide firepower, but only carriers provide sustained air power and command capability. In conflict or crisis, a carrier isn't just a ship, it's a mobile sovereign airbase, capable of moving 500 nautical miles in a day. It can strike, surveil, and secure, without relying on foreign bases or permissions. China has understood this well, and so has India. While the People's Liberation Army Navy plan pushes deep into the Indian Ocean with bases in Gwadar and Djibouti, India's answer lies in carrier battle groups positioned strategically on both flanks. Thus, two carriers aren't luxury, they are minimum credible deterrence for a maritime nation of India's scale. But even two aren't enough. Because the future, as naval planners see it, demands at least three. If Vikramaditya is the present and Vikrant is the proof of concept, INS Vishal, IAC-2 or IAC-3 will be the future. There are also plans to make another Vikrant-class carrier as an interim. Planned as a 65,000-ton supercarrier, INS Vishal will represent a quantum leap, both technologically and operationally. It's envisioned to adopt a CATOBAR, catapult-assisted takeoff but arrested recovery system, possibly using EMALS, electromagnetic launch system, technology, similar to the U.S. Navy's Ford-class carriers. This would allow India to operate heavier and more capable aircraft, including AEW, Airborne Early Warning, platforms like the E-2D Advanced Hawkeye and next-generation fighters such as the TDBF or even navalized Rafale M. More importantly, Vishal will integrate nuclear propulsion or hybrid propulsion systems, allowing sustained blue water operations without frequent refueling. The ship's conceptual design also includes stealth shaping, modular construction, and advanced radar-absorbent materials, placing it among the most futuristic carriers in the Indo-Pacific. Strategically, INS Vishal would ensure India always has two carriers operational, even if one undergoes refit or maintenance. It completes what the Navy calls the three-carrier doctrine, ensuring permanent readiness on both fronts and rotational flexibility for global deployments. But Vishal's significance extends beyond numbers. It symbolizes India's arrival as a global maritime power, capable of sustaining expeditionary operations, humanitarian missions, and naval diplomacy. Vishal could serve as the flagship of a future Indian expeditionary strike group, combining amphibious assault ships, submarines, and destroyers, making India capable of power projection from Africa's east coast to the western Pacific. While challenges remain, funding, technology transfer, and design finalization, Vishal remains central to India's long-term naval doctrine. And when it finally joins the fleet, India's carrier narrative will come full circle. From the refurbished British HMS Hercules of 1961 to a fully indigenous supercarrier.
Before we move forward, please like, share, and subscribe Strategic Vanguard and be up to date with the latest news and happenings from the world of defense, strategic, and international affairs. Tune into our video channels in YouTube and Rumble. And if you want to hear the audio version, tune into our Strategic Vanguard channels in Spotify and Amazon Music.
A carrier alone is powerful, but a carrier battle group, CBG, is formidable. Each of India's carriers operates at the heart of such a group, flanked by destroyers, INS Kolkata class, frigates, INS Vishal class, submarines, and fleet tankers. These multi-layered formations allow India to establish sea control, anti-submarine defense, and long-range surveillance simultaneously. Add to that the P-8I Poseidon maritime patrol aircraft from shore bases, and India's reach extends across thousands of kilometers of oceanic expanse. CBGs are also vital for disaster response and soft power projection, from evacuations to humanitarian aid missions. INS Vikramaditya and INS Vikrant aren't just symbols of might. They're floating command centers for India's diplomacy and deterrence. Their synergy is enhanced by India's network-centric warfare capabilities, integrating satellite data, maritime domain awareness systems, and AI-driven command platforms. Together they form what naval analysts call India's maritime trident, carriers, destroyers, and submarines, ensuring India can fight and win in all dimensions of the sea. To understand India's carrier strategy, one must look east, to China. The People's Liberation Army Navy has already launched 3 carriers, Liaoning, Shandong, and Fujian, with more in the pipeline. Its growing presence in the Indian Ocean region IOR, through Gwadar, Pakistan, Hambantota, Sri Lanka, and Djibouti, Africa, threatens to encircle India in what analysts call the string of pearls. China's goal is clear: secure sea lanes and project power far from home. India's counter-strategy? Twin carrier dominance, ensuring that no Chinese task force can operate freely in India's maritime backyard. While China's carriers may boast advanced systems, they lack combat experience in blue water environments. India, on the other hand, has operated carriers for over 6 decades, giving it unmatched operational expertise in the region. India's twin carrier deployment, supported by Andaman and Nicobar Command, Karwar, and Visakhapatnam, creates a maritime arc of influence that stretches from the Gulf of Aden to the Malacca Strait. This arc ensures that India can monitor, intercept, and project power across the critical choke points that define the Indo-Pacific. Moreover, India's deepening partnerships through the Quad, India, US, Japan, Australia, amplify its reach. Joint carrier exercises like Malabar demonstrate interoperability, a crucial factor in balancing China's maritime rise. Thus, India's twin carriers aren't isolated assets. They're strategic nodes in a larger Indo-Pacific defense architecture. And their true power lies in synergy between diplomacy, deterrence, and defense. The future of India's carrier aviation is already taking shape. The next frontier will include unmanned aerial combat systems, UKVs, AI-assisted deck operations, and hypersonic defense systems. Projects like SWIFT and Gatok UCAVs could revolutionize carrier air wings, enabling longer range and stealthier strike missions. At the same time, directed energy weapons DEUs and laser-based CIW systems are expected to replace traditional close-in weapon systems. The TED-BF, India's indigenous deck-based fighter, will mark a generational shift. A truly Indian answer to the MiG-29K, capable of both air superiority and strike missions from Vikrant, Vikramaditya, and eventually Vishal. Looking ahead, naval planners envision a carrier strike network, 3 operational carriers distributed across the Indian Ocean, connected by satellite and AI-driven data fusion. Together, they'll ensure India can not only defend its coasts, but influence global maritime events, from Africa to the South China Sea. India's twin carriers, Vikramaditya and Vikrant, stand as symbols of continuity, confidence, and capability. They're more than platforms of steel. They're embodiments of a nation asserting its rightful place in global maritime history. From borrowed ships to indigenous marvels, India's carrier journey tells a story of persistence and purpose. And as the next chapter unfolds with INS Vishal, India is poised to transition from a regional naval power to a true blue water force, one that safeguards not just its shores but the stability of the Indo-Pacific. Because in the 21st century, the battle for influence won't be won on land, it'll be decided on the waves. And India, with its twin carriers leading the charge, is ensuring that the tricolor will always fly high over the oceans of the world.
Thank you for joining us on this Strategic Vanguard deep dive. If you found value in this analysis, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel. We bring you fresh deep dives every Wednesday and Saturday here on YouTube and Rumble, and you can also catch the audio versions on Spotify and Amazon Music. Just search for Strategic Vanguard Deep Dive. For more insights, articles, and discussions, subscribe to our blog at strategicvanguard.com. Your support helps us grow and bring you more in-depth analysis on defense, geopolitics, and strategy. Until next time, stay informed, stay strategic.